What did I just say? Really? People, tell me, what did I just say? Jamaica 3, Dominica 2. Jamaica survived that game 3-2. This World Cup qualifying game between Jamaica and Dominica, there is so much to talk about. You know, on the one hand, if you are an average fan, you're a neutral fan, it was a classic. If you are a Reggae Boys fan, you're probably disappointed right now. But if you're a Dominica fan, you're probably happy with the performance of your team. But a lot happened in this game that we really need to talk about. Hello again, my beautiful people. Jamaican youth in the building. And in this video, we're here to break down the World Cup qualifying game between Jamaica and Dominica Republic. Before we get into it, I want to ask you to do the usual. Hit the like button as it helps to send the video out to more eyes. And if you haven't done so as yet, please hit the subscribe button as it helps the channel to grow. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Jamaica 3, Dominica 2. There's so much to talk about in this game. I can't wait. So let's talk about it. First of all, the starting team looked to be a good starting team. Jamali waiting goal, obvious choice. He has been doing well. We're going to come back and talk about Wait in a second. But Jamali waiting goal, Richard King and Deshaun Bernard in the center of defense. Very good choices, very good players. Greg Lee on the left wing and Dexter Lembikisa, who has no return, on the right wing. Very good choices. Then in the middle, we saw Ronaldo Cephas on the left wing, Bobby Reid on the right wing. And in the middle, we saw Karai Anderson and Casey Palmer. Karai Anderson, a lot of fans have been calling for Karai Anderson, and so we saw him. And then up front, we saw Shamar Nicholson and Kahim Dixon. Wow. So what did I think about the starting lineup? Excellent starting lineup. I think it was good. I liked seeing Kahim Dixon getting a start. However, as the game progressed, I am happy for the 3 points. I don't want to get it twisted. I'm happy for the win that Jamaica got. I'm happy for the 3 points. You know, kudos to the coaching staff. Kudos to Jamaica. 3 points gained. But again, this was not a convincing performance by any stretch of the imagination. We survived Dominica. It seemed like in the last, after the penalty was scored by Shamar Nicholson, the third goal, we shut off at that point. And so the goals that were scored, by the way, is one by Shamar Nicholson, the first goal by Shamar Nicholson, the second goal, a good instinctive goal by Shamar Nicholson, by the way, second goal by Kahim Dixon, the type of goal that you see him score in schoolboy football and also score at the Premier League level. And then the third goal is a penalty by Shamar Nicholson that he took. It was pretty much an inadvertent penalty because, like, I don't even remember seeing any Jamaicans appealing for a penalty. The Dominican defender tried to head it out. It once I hit his hand, and the referee gave us that gift of a penalty, which Shamar Nicholson scored. We'll take it, but I mean, I look at the game and I'm like, there are several issues, several things I saw. Now, the two strikers that scored, which is Shamar Nicholson and Kahim Dixon, they scored, which I'm happy for, but they got a lot of opportunities that they should have put away. Kahim Dixon should have been on a hat trick. I mean, he hit the post 2 times in addition to the goal that he scored. It's, you know, I'm not going to beat him too much because he's a young player and he has been working super hard to get to the point where he's at right now. And he scored. He still scored. I'm very happy that he scored in a World Cup qualifying game. That's an important goal that he scored for Jamaica. And to be honest with you, look, judging by the outcome of this game, it's even more important that he scored that goal today. Because, I mean, the latter part of that game today was something else, man. Again, it's a classic if you're a neutral fan. It's a Not so good game if you're a Reggae Boys fan, and it's a great game if you are a Dominica fan. It's funny. I'm pretty sure the Jamaican fans are maybe not happy even though we won, but the Dominica fans are happy even though they lost. And obviously, it's because it's Jamaica. We're expected to do better. This is the same team, this Dominica team is the same team that Guatemala gave 6-0. And we are struggling with them, man. Like, so again, let's continue into it because there's a lot more. The finishing in front of goal, as much as we scored 3 and we ended up winning the game, was inadequate. Bowser should have been on a hat-trick as well. Both Bowser and Kahim Dixon should have scored a hat-trick today. Bowser scored 2, but he got some other opportunities. Even in the latter part of this game, he got another opportunity to have scored 3. He should have been on a hat-trick. Kahim Dixon should have been on a hat-trick. The first one that he missed where he kicked with his right foot, he probably should have shifted right and maybe kick it with his left so that it curled into the net. But, if it had gone into the net, it wouldn't have mattered, The second one is when Bowser kicked that free kick or that shot and the keeper saved it. It bounced out back. Kahim Dixon was there following up. He tried to place it to his right, goalkeeper's left, but it hit the post. Kahim Dixon is a good striker, and I think he'll become something big in the future. I really think he'll be a big striker in the future. But, today, I wish he had put away those opportunities that he had, man. Like, I really wish he had put away those opportunities. The game became nervous at the end because we didn't put away those opportunities. I was watching and I was like, for the first 80 minutes of the game, maybe 75 minutes of the game, I was like, there's no way that this Dominica team looked like Cavaliers could beat them, like a JPL team could beat them. That's what I was thinking. But then, as the game went on to the last 15 minutes, it's like Dominica turned into a different team, and we scored that third goal in that penalty, and we shut off. We stopped playing at that point, and Dominica was like, "No, the game is not done yet." And I know this is a question that was asked by John Wall, or was asked to John Wall, in a previous press conference. Somebody asked a question, said, John Wall, Jamaica tends to concede goals in the latter stages of game. Is there anything that the coaching staff is doing to address that issue? And I think John Wall's response was, that's what you call a confirmation bias, meaning that you think it's going to happen, so now that it's happening, it has happened, it's confirming what you were already thinking. And now we look in this game, we never lost this game, but we conceded 2 goals in the latter stages of the game. And so I have to ask the question, if we're going to do something about that, because even though we didn't lose this game, it is a problem. Because even though we didn't lose this game, Dominica is a weak team. It's probably one of the weakest teams we will face in this World Cup qualifying campaign. And we conceded 2 goals in the latter stages of the game. So it is a problem. It's not about no confirmation bias. It is a problem. We tend to have these issues from time to time. It doesn't happen all the time, but it does happen. And it's something that needs to be addressed. Now, again, I've talked about the strikers, Shamar Nicholson and Shamar Nicholson and Kahim Dixon. They had decent games. One has to say, well, they're getting themselves in the correct position to get the chances to finish, but they still have to finish those opportunities. If you think about it, how many goals did they score between the two of them? They scored 3 goals between Bowser and Kahim Dixon, but how many opportunities did they have to score? There were at least 4 other opportunities that they could have, maybe should have scored from. that they didn't. So 3 out of 7 chances is not, it's still on the lower end. If you were doing 5 out of 7 chances, then I could say, okay. But 3 out of 7 chances is, it wasn't good enough, at least from my standpoint. And, I'm happy for the win. So I don't want that point to be lost. And I also don't want to beat Kyle Dixon too much, because he's a young player and he has worked very hard to be to where he is right now. But when you get to this stage, after a while that newness is going to wear off and we have to get into the performance on the field. And I'm afraid, even though he scored today, I just didn't think it was good enough from him today. I don't want to spend too much time talking about him, but still, I want to make that point. Now, when you look at some other aspects, and I'm coming to each play, but when you look at some other aspects, you look at the goal scored. This is one of the first times I will look, and I have a little bit of a criticism of Jamali Waite. The first goal that was scored by Javid George from Dominica, I don't think Waite had to come off his line. He could have waited on his line, no pun intended, and allowed, even though Javid George was high up the pitch, he could have stayed on his line, allowed the defenders to come back and tackle him. And if George was going to hurry up and kick a shot, at least he would have been on his line to stop it, or he would have been in a better position to try and save it. But he chose to come to kind of close down George and never really got to the ball before him. He got to the ball late, so George beat him and then curled it in the net. And I think, from my perspective, maybe some people will have a difference of opinion on this. I think that was a mistake by Jamal Waite. He should have stayed on his line and not advance right there. Now, in the heat of the moment, he's seeing the game from his eyes. He made that decision. This is me just looking and saying, in hindsight, he should have stayed on his line. In the moment, though, he did what he did. So, it is what it is. The second goal was a beautifully taken free kick by Dominica, but Waite didn't really. It didn't seem like he made a good enough attempt to try and stop the ball going in the net. And I don't know if it's because he saw the ball late, or he wasn't in a good enough position where he could see the ball from it was kicked to when it ended up wherever it ended up. I don't know, but I think, he could have made a better attempt to try and save it. All that being said, though, it was a very good free kick taken by, I think his name was Jules or something like that. It was a good free kick taken, and Waite was in no man's land when that happened. Now, again, we didn't close out this game very well at all. We shut off. We allowed Dominica. It's almost like, we win the game already, so, you know what I mean? I'm not going to bother try shark them down for the ball too much. Them not good anyway. So it's like we started to underestimate them in that last 15 minutes of the game, and they weren't done. And this would have been a really embarrassing result had they ended up tying it at 3-3, because they had an opportunity towards the dying embers of the game. And it's really something that we have to use this as a lesson going into the next round. Now, I'm not as worried about the goal differences as I hear a lot of fans talk about, because they believe that, goal difference will play a pivotal role, but remember, we're going to play Guatemala. So as long as we beat Guatemala, it doesn't matter if we beat them by 1 goal or by 10 goals, we will have more points than them. But anything less than beating Guatemala, is not going to play well in our favor, though. So if we draw with Guatemala, for example, that's going to be tough. No, the good news is that we're playing Guatemala at home in Jamaica. So I think that we stand a better chance. That game, we can't afford to play around with it. We definitely have to have our best players. You know what I mean? Because this game, if we weren't taking these World Cup games and these even minnow teams seriously before, this game will now teach us that no team, even if it's British Virgin Islands or Dominica, should be taken lightly. None. Because remember, if we don't top this group, we're going to end up in a zone where another big team is in. You know, whether it is Panama, Costa Rica, are one of those big teams. We want to avoid them at all costs. Because when you get to that latter stage, whosoever wins that group will qualify for the World Cup automatically. We want to be one of the teams that qualify automatically. So we cannot allow Guatemala to come and muscle us out of a top seed. We have to take that seriously. So all in all, a good. I'm glad for the 3 points. I'm glad for the win. So, you know, Jamali Waite, not his best game today, but based on the closing stages of the game, maybe some will see it differently. I thought Lembekisa was outstanding as usual. Greg Lee was good as well. Deshaun Bernard was substituted at halftime and Michael Hector came on, but he played a good game too. Richard King had a good game. They were out of position on that first goal, but I think maybe if the goalkeeper stayed on his line, they would have been able to come back and a better defensive job would have been done. So, you know, I don't know that I will blame that goal on the defenders, but again, some might see it differently. I think in the midfield, Karai Anderson looked good, and I think that he should have more game time because so far he has looked like the better attacking midfielder of what we have had so far. I think he will need to get a little bit more game time because Daniel Johnson, I like Daniel Johnson, but he is not consistently impactful when he plays for Jamaica. You know, there are some games that he has more of an impact than others, but right now, we need somebody who is consistent. With Karai Anderson being as young as he is, you know, he is going to be more of the future than Daniel Johnson. Luckily, Casey Palmer was back. I think he had a decent game too. I think they facilitated the forwards very well. You know, again, Shamar Nicholson and Kaheem Dixon had numerous opportunities. So to a large extent, I thought the midfielders did their job in this game. The forwards, the forward players were well fed. They were well fed. So I think the midfielders did a good job. Wingers, we saw Ronaldo Cephas. He was substituted at halftime. Deshane Beckford came on. Deshane Beckford looks lively, but not sure how impactful he was. Bobby Reid was usually Bobby Reid. At times, I saw him playing somewhat of like a midfield role than a winger role. I even saw Casey Palmer out in the wing sometimes, but he was decent. Cephas wasn't as impactful in this game. I think because the forwards had so much free reign on Dominica that it never really called for the type of runs that Cephas normally made, and so maybe that's why his style, his game wasn't really necessary per se in this game, but it will become when we face tougher opposition. Cephas will be more impactful in a game like this. You know, Dominica was an easy team. We just take our foot off the gas. I still personally believe that a JPL team could have put them in problems, but again, maybe because the forward had so much free reign on Dominica that Cephas's game wasn't really needed per se. And then for the strikers, I mean, they had it all to do for themselves. You know what I mean? Like, Kaheem Dixon and Shamar Nicholson had, they had it all to do. They could have scored 6-7 goals today between the two of them. We saw Alex Marshall coming on later on and so on. But all in all, not a convincing victory. I would have liked to see a clean sheet. I would have liked to see at least a 4-0 margin. We had the opportunities to score 4-0. So it wasn't an impossibility, but we just didn't get the job done today. Or we didn't get to score 4 goals today. But again, as I said, I'm glad for the win. I'm glad for the 3 points. We'll move on from here, but we have got to learn from this game today. We really have got to learn from it, you know. Anyway, I'm not going to belabor the point anymore. I want to keep this no more than 20 minutes. So thank you for watching it, everyone. On your way out, please hit the like button. And if you haven't subscribed, if you're new, please hit the subscribe button as it helps the channel to grow. Until next time, take care of yourself. Walk good. I'm out.